All right. Welcome, everyone. I am Carmel Ecker of Speak Now Life Coaching, your single parent empowerment coach. And this is another fabulous interview with someone who has something of interest for the single parent community. And her name is Naomi Hickey. And she has written a book called My Parents Are Like Peas and Garlic, and which I love. And I'm actually, yes, yay,
Yeah,
there's the book.
hey, there's a book, yeah.
And I'm actually going to get her to explain a little bit about the book and why is it called My Parents Are Like Peas and Garlic.
Yeah, definitely. It is a little odd, maybe. Yeah, and I just found on Amazon I was next to like a garlic press, and I was like, this is not what I envisioned when I made this. So anyway, no, but yes, I'm going under the author name of Naomi Rose.
Oh,
Rose is my middle name. That's
apologies.
okay. No, don't worry. And so anyway, the book kind of came about because my son and I were having some challenges at home. I have, we ended the father and I. We ended our relationship right before our son turned 2. So my son doesn't really have a lot of memory about all that went on, but it was a very toxic environment. And I just drew the line in the sand and I was like, okay, I don't want to raise my son in this. So, but, as he got older, he was really, he take a lot of aggression out on me. And so I sought out help because, he did not come with a set of instructions at all. There was nothing else in my uterus that, provided me any indication of what I was doing, what I should be doing. And so anyway, I reached out for help, and we got to work with this behavioral therapist who was awesome. And, my son really resonates with books, and she would create these social stories. And, my son kept coming to me, not understanding why can't we all just live together? Why? And I'm a big proponent of not bashing the other parent or, throwing yourself under the bus and just trying to, you know, make it understandable for their development, being appropriate, right? What's appropriate. And I figured, all right, well, he's really resonating with these stories. Let me just see if I can write something. And, a download kind of came. This was not part of my master plan. And my mom is, I don't have a green thumb. You should see the plants. They're just holding on. I don't know. It's God bless them. When they come into my house, they have to know they got to be really, they
Hardy.
got to have some strength. Yeah, they got to be strong to live here. And
Sounds like my
but
house.
yeah, that is not my gift. My mom, however, loves to garden, and so I was like, okay, well, when she's planting her garden, what two things can't you plant next to one another? And I Googled it, and peas and garlic. You literally cannot plant peas next to garlic. But if you plant carrots in between, everybody grows. They all grow. And I was like, okay. So then I created this little thing and likened us as humans to the peas and garlic. Sometimes, like when we get together, we think we're going to get along like peas and carrots, but as our relationship kind of evolves, we can then turn into peas and garlic. And it's just not, instead of staying in a withering garden together, sometimes separating, and we get our own space, and then everybody can flourish. So that's basically the what the book kind of talks about, and explains the divorce and the shared custody, and going between one home and the other home, and that shared time, which is really frustrating. He has a very difficult time with the transition, the pickups and the drops offs, and and the we can get into this a little bit more, but like the co-parenting kind of model, right? Like you try as your best to do as consistent in both homes as you can, but like they're not going to be identical. You're two different people, two different types of parents, right? So, and then the kid has to get accustomed to flip-flopping between these two things. So yeah, but that's kind of how the book the story came. And then when I shared it with the therapist, they were like, you should probably get this published. Now, I had no idea how to publish a book. And, I reached out to a couple of people who had already, if you want to know how to do something, you go to the people that have walked through the fire.
Mhm.
So I picked their brain and they gave me a couple of sites to check out, and I did some research, and then I ended up finding myself an illustrator who would work for my price point. And yeah, and then it was like this beautiful thing. I don't know if you listen to Abraham Hicks and Esther, and
Mhm.
but they talk about this power of co-creation. Like, here
Mhm.
we are on the planet and we need to be working together with one another to create something new. And I just felt that kind of, experience with this book baby.
Yeah.
So, and his illustrations really brought the story even more to life.
Right.
And we just launched at the end of March. We have an ebook version and we have this paperback, and now it's also expanded on Ingram Spark.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the second story is with him now. So, and that's going to be the family recipe,
Oh,
and that kind of
wonderful.
will also, yeah, depict more, what families really look like. It's not just this one set with a mom and a dad and a brother, and there's so many
There's a
ways a
wide
family looks.
variety of
Yeah,
family types out there. Yeah,
yeah, and no
absolutely.
one way is the right way. So I really wanted to kind of, address that, and kind of, so he doesn't compare, because when we compare, we lose.
Yes.
So we just have to embrace what we have, and know, yeah. So that's kind of where that story is right now. So that's in the works.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And so I'm wondering, what was the impact that this story had on your son? I'm curious, like how it had the
Oh gosh.
desired effect.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna flip the camera. Like, I don't know if you can see that. So he
Oh,
drew
that's
that.
so awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, I was tearing up. I was like, wow, he gets it. He gets it. And he was like, Mom, you're the peas, Dad's the garlic, I'm the carrot. He identified with all the characters. And I mean, he has, like, to give you a little bit of context too, he has been diagnosed with ADHD and some potential autism, which, that way of thinking, right? Um, it's very, like, almost linear, very logical. Like, you have to be specific. You have to give more specific details sometimes,
Right,
and
nuance isn't
and
so good for them.
yeah, there's nuances. I mean,
Okay.
nobody's brain. There's no two brains that are alike either. That's a whole nother topic for another day. But yeah, yeah. So I just know he resonates with this, and then I know that there have been people that have bought my book that have said, wow, this has been so helpful. And even adults, like, when I was shopping around for illustrators, the adults were like, wow, your story just summarized my childhood. I so identified with this. So, and I wasn't expecting that piece either, but this could be also cathartic for the adult who went through their own parents divorcing, and not, because I think we take on, like, this, it's my fault. And I wanted to be very clear with him that it was not his fault that we don't live together. Um, yeah, and kind of ease that messaging that sometimes yeah, and as kids, they don't have the reasoning in their brain function until they're 25. So that's when our brains are fully developed. And I would even say mine is not even, it's an evolution, right? Yeah, we're evolving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, when you really think about that, like the human brains don't fully develop until they're 25. It's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. When you look at the
Yeah.
teenage years and even the early 20s, where like you're like, where did that decision come from? Even when we look back
Right.
on our own past, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Not the brightest bulbs on the Christmas trees. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, wow. Yeah. Fearless and naive and not knowing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, with this book, you have also developed kind of a co-parenting system, which you're calling the ABCs of co-parenting. And I wanted to touch on
Um,
that because it's just such
um,
practical advice and a really easy system to remember that can really help families, well, specifically the parents,
Yeah.
to find a way to work together even when they're not really getting along all that well,
Yeah.
which happens, not in all cases,
Yeah.
but certainly in many.
Yeah.
So tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about the ABCs.
So, yeah, when we moved to this new town, I approached the library and she was so excited. She got the book and then she asked me if I would be willing to do a talk on co-parenting. And I was like, what? You know, I was like, okay. Well, I mean, I can share my experience. And when I really sat back and thought about this whole co-parenting journey, what came to me was some ABCs, to break it down. So, the A is for, it's AAA, like, and it's not just for your car. So awareness, acceptance, into action. And then another A is accountability, being accountable for your actions, your behaviors, the words that you're saying, not only because I think, the thing is this co-parenting model, it's like a trifecta. If you have just one child and then add onto that for every additional child, but you have yourself, right? You have the other parent, and then you have the relationship with your child. So the relationship with yourself, the relationship with the co-parent, and then the relationship with the child. And so you have to be aware of where you're at, and then accept. You don't have, doesn't mean you like it, but you accept that, okay, here we are. Now, what am I going to do about it? What kind of actions am I going to take? And are they going to be, so self-serving that it's, like vindictive, or it's hurting other people? Or can I, take action that is, for the greater good of all? And then being held accountable. Like, now I'm more often than not going to my son, even like if I overreacted, if I had he triggered me. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if you've experienced this, but our kids are like little flashlights to shine on us the parts that need some healing, and to deal with our own childhoods. This is the work. This is the work. So being accountable and saying, oh, bud, I'm really sorry I did that, right? I shouldn't have yelled in that way, but I was really feeling frustrated, owning it. So the B's are the boundaries, the behavior, and the beginning with the end in mind. So ideally, if you have this vision of what you would like your co-parenting life to look like, and keep the focus on that, and kind of reverse engineering that. And then the boundaries, because sometimes you're gonna, like, for myself, the father has some narcissistic tendencies. So my boundaries, I've had to learn how to build them and gain confidence in making them, and then being consistent, right, with them.
Yeah,
And
so
then the
powerful.
behavior, like, and learning how to respond instead of reacting. Like, you
Tell me
don't
a
have
little
to go
bit.
to every, yeah, you don't have
Yeah,
to go to every fight you're invited to.
I love
So
that.
now,
That's great.
yeah, and now I can actually, he would get me so flustered. He would go on these rants, these rampages, whether it was on a phone call, sometimes it was even in person, or the texting rants, I mean, just like diarrhea of the thumbs, of whatever. And it would get me so, like, upset and physically, like, oh my God. And now I can kind of take a step back and look at it like, oh, he's in his fear. This is all his insecurity talking. Like, and I don't have to accept anything that he is dishing out right now, because this is not my real truth. Like, really knowing yourself and saying, is he calling, is it legit? Okay, like, that comes back to the awareness piece. Is this legitimate? No, it's not. It's not based in reality, right? It's in his reality.
Mm-hmm. I love
And
that you
so,
brought it
kind
back
of,
to the awareness, because I was like,
yeah,
oh, there's the awareness again.
awareness, yeah, because this is like a lather, rinse, repeat kind of thing. Like, you can't just do this once and done. I think this is like,
It's a
this has
practice.
to be, it is, and it, believe me, I'm not perfect at it, and so it just, you keep working on it. It's progress, not perfection, right? And so then it comes to the C's, which is communication, and hopefully your communication is in a calm tone. It's clear, it's concise, and it's consistent. And like I said, if you're dealing with somebody who has narcissism, you really have to be mindful, like less is more, and just the facts. And don't engage or don't be too trusting of it's great if you can be two co-parents that actually can have a friendly kind of relationship. I've heard from people that they can still almost be like best friends, and they can get together and they can have like a family dinner night and they can do these type of things, and that's awesome. But not everybody's going to go down that path and be able to do it. So just keeping that in mind, and then the consistency, like I said, the consistency between the two homes as much as you can. And then the compromise, knowing that you're not going to get everything on your wish list, and you're going to have to kind of, make some sacrifices here and there, and bend. And as my friend calls it, a strategic withdrawal sometimes.
Strategic withdrawal.
When you're just forcing, when you're forcing the issue, like sometimes you just have to be like, all right, I'm just going to take hands off for a minute, surrendering to what is, and then asking yourself, like, how important is this? Like, is this life and death for the child? And that, I think that's going to be the F. I just stopped at D, but I think the F is the keeping the focus on either yourself and your child. And it teeters between the two, because if you don't focus enough on yourself, it's like the plane ride. You need the oxygen first so you can give of your excess and not of your essence. But then, instead of pointing the finger and keeping the focus of energy on what the other parent is doing, that won't serve you. You can keep doing it, but that's a drain of your energy and your time.
It's not really
for sure.
I see another C in there, to be really honest.
Yeah. Oh,
is child.
Yeah, the child. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
keeping the child.
Yeah, and maybe that's what the F will be. But it sounds like you've got more than ABC. You've got a few more letters that you're developing.
That I'm developing as I go, because I did like a brain dump when I think about it, and I'm like, okay, because the D I came up with, like, discovering what brings you joy, and I think this comes back to the self. Like, if you are not a fulfilled mama or a fulfilled dad in your own right, and I think, right, this job as parents, it's got this natural evolution, right? We have to be there, do everything in the very beginning. Like, they are so helpless, and then we as parents have to learn each stage. Like, oh God, I'm not innate. I can't enable. I have to let go. They have to learn how to do, dress themselves, brush their teeth, and wash their own hair, and give them more independence. Because this is the end goal, right? Like, we are helping to guide and raise these people to flourish out in the world by themselves, without us.
Yeah.
And our roles shift. And I just hear about mamas when they have the empty nest syndrome. So when you do so much pouring in and the focus is only on the child, and you neglect yourself, and it's like I can only speak for myself, but once I had him, I was like, who am I? I'm like this. The things that lit me up don't light me up. And I'm sure there was postpartum in there, and the sleeplessness and the medical issues he was having, and all of this weight. And I'm like, who is Naomi? Like, now I'm Gabriel's mama. Yeah. I'm introduced as, I'm Gabriel's mom. Every doctor, I'm Gabriel's mom. I'm not Naomi anymore. I'm Gabriel's mom, right? And I'm his advocate. I'm his, whatever. Yeah. And it's like this road to self rediscovery, and rediscovering yourself, like, after ending this relationship that you thought was going to maybe pan out. And now, who are you and what are your goals? And then, and detaching with love, detaching from the other, like, I can't, you can whirl over here, but I can't get involved. I'm not gonna, I think it goes back to you don't have to go to every fight you're invited to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then having that discernment, of knowing, okay, is this the best thing, for me, for him? I think discernment instead of judgment, instead of harsh. Yes. Judgment is such a harsh word and a negative connotation, but I think we have to be discerning,
Yeah, and judgment does come from a place that is more negative, right? It is you shouldn't, you should, versus discernment is like, is this really the best thing? It's a little bit, I don't want to say softer, but it is less about finding fault and more
Yes,
about finding the best solution.
yes,
So
absolutely.
I love the word discernment. Maybe more than
Yeah,
anyone should love a word.
yeah, yeah. And I just learned it like in my adulthood. So
Yeah.
I guess my bigger thing is like, I want to give back. It's somewhat, kind of reliving my own childhood, going back and saying, what would I have loved to have had? What did I need? And what can I give to Gabriel and his peers to give them tools and strategies like, coping and understanding and, talking about our feelings? Because I don't know about you, but I was raised in a household that we didn't really talk about feelings. Like, Naomi, don't feel that way. Naomi, don't talk about that. Like that, mm-mm.
Yeah, there were lots of
And
households like that. And I,
yeah,
you know what, I actually think, and I'm like, I don't remember, but I don't remember my feelings being suppressed necessarily.
okay,
But we didn't also like sit down regularly and talk about our feelings. It was a different time, right? The parenting
it was.
philosophies were different. Whereas now we've come to a place where we're much more focused on making sure that children are heard, that they have an outlet, a way to express their thoughts, feelings, so that they can have healthy emotions, especially boys, as they
Yes.
develop into adults.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think there's definitely, a disconnect in where we're seeing, uptick in more, shootings and all these things. Like, I think it's just a lack of coping with our feelings.
Absolutely.
The drugs and the drinking and the sex trafficking and all this stuff is like the symptom of, I can't stand these feelings and I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have big feelings, but nobody really teaches you how to regulate. And this job as parent, it's like you have to almost, you have to learn how to regulate yourself first so you can then in turn help them to regulate.
Yeah.
And we see that yeah, like we just see it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parents who can't regulate their own emotions raise kids who can't regulate their emotions,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and then the kids have to spend, some of their adult years, either they repeat the pattern or they spend the time doing the work to deprogram that behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're getting a little further away from co-parenting than we
Right.
but
I know. Yeah.
but it's
But it's
interesting,
like,
so I love it.
yeah. And I think, if the two parents aren't on that same page and that same path, it does add to that mix, right? And then you can see the child's behaviors escalate,
Yeah.
right? So
So
it kind of, it's like in the mix.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you are a parent and you have a parent who is not all that cooperative and is not really prepared to sign on for this whole ABC idea,
Yeah.
um, more letters to come. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
will this still work? Is this still effective to kind of follow this system?
I think at least one of the parents has to be on board because
Definitely,
let's
yeah,
yeah. Um yeah, and I keep being reassured by, the therapists that work with us that, as long as you stay reasonably sane, right? And able to model better behavior, empathy, some emotional intelligence, validation, these kind of things, then it's less likely that my child will turn out to be a narcissist or a person that does more unhealthy behavior, right?
mm-hmm.
So yeah, it really, but you have to be willing maybe to do the work,
Yeah,
yeah, and to
yeah,
look at it.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And I will say that, just me, when they say when you get better, they can get better because you're not keeping the focus on them too. And then they see kind of, oh, the father has even said, oh, I see some of the benefits. Gabriel will actually say, be more verbal about how he's feeling, or all this other stuff. So, and he sees a change from what all the work, this work that we're doing over here at my house. So yeah, I think
So
it's
there
just
is
going to
hope.
carry over. There is, I think
There
there
is
is.
hope, even if
And
it's just you.
even if it's just you, because again, you can only control yourself. You can't control the other person and what they do, but you can control how you show up for yourself and for your child.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you, and then hope for the best, because nothing in life is a guaranteed, but you plant the seed, even if he doesn't get it right now, maybe down the line, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
and I'm curious if this has had a positive impact on you as far as the relationship with your co-parent. We know that this has had an impact on your son, but has this, maybe hasn't changed your former partner's behaviors, but
Mm-hmm.
what has it done for you, even if that hasn't happened?
um I think, for me, I've actually like gotten more confidence in myself, instead of, shrinking back or being, fearful or avoiding. The move was a big to do. It really was. The father did not react very kindly, and it's just in the irony of me creating this book, creating all this stuff, that he went low, and he shared his his kind of negative thoughts about the whole move to our son. And then my son came through the door and he was like, "Mom, it's all your fault. You're so mean. You don't care about my dad. He's going to lose his job. He can't move with us. Da 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 da." And I was like, "Oh my God."
That's got to be
Yeah,
hard to hear from your child.
yeah, yeah. And my child has so much anger towards me. And I was like, "Oh, okay. How ironic. Here we are." Here we are. And there I go. I have to do the work. And, through this Clubhouse app, I mean, I've gotten to meet people like yourself, and I met somebody else. And, I was able to do this interview with somebody who had autism, right? And all the things, like, we busted through a lot of the myths about people with autism. And I think, the father has access to watch me on Facebook. And you know what? After listening to her speak about her story, he had a change. He had a shift. Yeah. And then,
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty powerful. I was like, "Oh, you know what I mean?" So, and then, but the thing with our son, and, once you introduce an idea or something, it's not like you can just, quickly shift it, and have it be simple. So, but, the father was like, "No, no, no, this is really a good move. This is good. It's going to be okay. Everything is okay." He totally changed his tune. And I was like, "My gosh." but, it, but my son was really slow to this move, and still giving me a lot of resistance. And so, but I think, he's warming up. And then the father was like, "You know what? You're right. I think, because part of the move was to get him into a better school system, right? That can help and support him."
Right.
And that was a big proponent of the move. And also, I'm closer to my family. So, should I get COVID or should something happen, then I have other resources. I'm not stuck out and having the father be my only, like, savior. You know what I mean?
Your only support. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So, he was in his fear, his own security. He owned up to the stuff, and then he's like, "I'm sorry, blah blah blah." But yeah, so I think this stuff is working. And as far as, like, I keep my boundary up. I don't, like, allow too much friendly banter. He's talked about in the past, like, "Oh, maybe we should all have a dinner together, all do," and I'm like, "No, no," because I also don't want my son to think
that
that
you're
this is
getting that
like,
together.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And that
yep,
doesn't mean that
also,
wouldn't be a possibility maybe in the future, but for now,
right,
that boundary
right,
is what's
yeah,
healthy for you. And I think
right,
that's a really important thing to keep in mind is that, your boundaries are something you get to decide, is this a boundary that still works
yeah,
for me? Do I need to hold firm to this? And I think there are different degrees of boundaries, right?
that's right,
And it's dependent on everybody's individual situation. What's the right boundary for you,
yes,
right? It's even
yep,
different
mm-hmm,
with different people, maybe.
yes.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like it's not one size fits all. Just like, some people have like the small little pebble of a boundary. Some people have the short picket fence. Some people have the bigger one. And I have like the iron gate, with the little peephole. That's what my boundary is. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna look okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And you know that that's important for you, right?
yeah,
Within your life, but also within this co-parenting relationship that you are trying to shape. Well, not
yeah,
trying, there's no try, only do. The
yeah.
co-parenting
The do.
relationship that you are shaping through the work that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and like
beautiful.
navigating pickup drop offs have changed. Could it be better? Yeah, but it is what it is. So you pick your battles, you kind of roll with it.
Mhm.
um and before, I think I would keep almost like score, like the tally, like, oh, he was late today, he's late this time, he's late this time, he's late, and I'm like, that is not helping me, that is not helping this whole situation. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give him grace, because you know what, I don't know whether I will be late because of traffic or whatever the case may be. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to, these are the times you got to zip it. You know what I mean? Pick your
Well,
battles, right?
yeah, pick your battles. And also, when there's a problematic behavior, you
Right.
don't like tallying the score isn't going to help. Being in communication with that person about
Yep.
the fact that that isn't working for you,
Yeah.
that's what needs to happen. The keeping score just builds resentment,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. And then it just eats away at you. So yeah. And then you can't show up as, a present mama to your child, and
yeah,
happy and content and all those things. So
yeah.
yeah, it's such, being human is hard. It's messy. Being in really,
It's definitely messy. Definitely
yeah,
messy.
yeah. My
Yeah.
therapist keeps reminding me, she's like, yeah, Yumi, this is messy. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, but it's so beautiful at the same time. Like we're all kind of wandering our own winding path through this life and we're learning our
Yeah.
lessons and hopefully we're finding
Mm-hmm.
joy in some of those moments, some of those lessons.
Yeah.
Hopefully more often than not.
Yeah. And that was the other thing. She was like, Naomi, when something really good happens, milk it. Milk it for all it's worth.
Hmm.
Because our brains are so wired for the negative
Yeah,
that,
negativity
it's
bias.
hard to sometimes see the positives. And those little moments of when, Gabriel will come and be like, Mom, can I have a hug? Or, like really sweet, cuddly, juicy moments. And I'm like, okay. Or where he's able to actually tell me and not hit me, or celebrate those. That's a check in the win box.
Yeah,
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 that's a
yeah.
check.
And they don't have
Yeah,
to be big. They
yeah,
don't have to be big. Right now,
yeah, exactly.
I've always had some form of gratitude practice, but for the
Mm,
past couple of months, I think I've had an active like I've got a journal and I write down minimum three
yeah.
things. Oh, your picture
Oh,
disappeared.
oh, oh, sorry, sorry. It was like, sorry, low battery.
Oh
Sorry.
dear. Okay. Well, we're almost done.
It's
But
okay.
I started a journaling gratitude practice every single
Yes.
morning. The first thing I do, I meditate and then I write out minimum three things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And it is such a beautiful way to start my day. And I can imagine looking back on this journal, a year from
Hmm.
now and flipping through and just seeing like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. That was wonderful. And it keeps my focus on the positive.
That's right. That's right.
So
Maybe
it's,
that
I
could
don't
be
know
the
if you have
G.
gratitude practice.
Yeah, I get into it, and then the consistency in my self-care sometimes is a little less than ideal. I did do Tony Robbins UPW, so I would do the priming in the morning, and then he'd be like, "Are you listening to Tony Robbins?" He knew. He was like, "You listening to Tony Robbins?" And then sometimes he would try to do it with me too and do the breathing. But I've kind of gotten away because in the morning he gets going, and I was like, oh my gosh. So it really is setting aside that time. I tend to meditate in the evening after he goes to bed and not first thing. I'm finding that is
That's working for you.
better for me. Yeah, and meditation has been phenomenal since I've done the Tony Robbins, and the meditator is Master Co, and he's really kind of, he gives like a lecture and explains the whole thing. And I was like, oh, makes so much sense. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah,
I love that. I love that.
I know.
And yeah, it
Yeah,
does. It's very common sense.
yeah,
And and it's just that constant reminder when whether you're meditating and allowing yourself to just like a silent meditation, or if you listen
yeah,
to a guided meditation where you are learning something or being just having someone else hold the focus for you almost.
yes, yes,
That makes sense.
yes. I
And
do much better with that.
yeah, it can just
Yeah,
um, show you things that you maybe didn't see before, even though they were right in front of you.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, because we're so caught up. We're just bombarded, and we have to get back to that inner self. Yeah.
yeah.
So again, to the awareness of really who we are and the
Yes.
core. Yeah,
I
we're
so
not our
I'm
body.
I am
Yeah,
all about, regaining that awareness of who we are and what we want, and then making a plan to
yeah,
go get it. That's like the kind of the core of my coaching. So I just love to hear you say that because it's so important. We cannot forget in the act of parenting that we matter too, and that
mm-hmm.
us being fulfilled and happy, joyful,
Yes,
inspired, motivated, all of those things, if we can give ourselves those things, foster those things in ourselves, it wears off on our kids,
yeah,
and we
for
are
sure.
better parents for it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. 100%.
yeah,
100%. Because I think that, looking at my mom, doing a job that she didn't love, and just like, you know, being in a marriage that wasn't, she still is in it. It just wasn't the most ideal, right? Um and the best model of what a relationship could be potentially, right? And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to end up like that. And so I up and quit my nursing job finally after 23 years of being a bedside nurse. And I moved here, and I have no desire to go back to the bedside. And I'm like, now I'm in this new hallway of like discovery. And I'm like, okay, what will light me up? What can I add? What can I do and serve the world, and yet still be able to support myself and my son, right?
yeah,
Along this path and this journey, and then model to him that you're not born to go to school to get a job to pay the bills to then die. I think there's a little bit more to life than that.
definitely
So
more to life
yeah,
than that. And I think
yeah,
you're well on your way with your book, with the new book that you've got coming out, and I hope you'll let me know when that's. I
yes,
know I know you'll let me know
yeah, I will
when
tell
it's
you. Yeah,
ready,
yeah,
and I'll share the heck out of that. And
thank you.
your ABC system, which is going to have more letters added to it, but I just
Yeah,
you this beautiful um, this is something beautiful that's come out of something that was not ideal.
right,
Yeah,
right.
let's put it that
Let your
way.
pain be your platform, or make your mess your message. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, wonderful. Well, thank
yeah,
you so much
thank
for
you.
taking
I'm
time to chat with
good.
me today. This was awesome. It was a great conversation. It kind of
Yeah,
wound around a little bit and strayed away from
yeah,
co-parenting, but I just think there was so much value in so much in everything you said, really. So I do appreciate you taking the time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on Clubhouse. Yeah, we're
yay.
on Clubhouse every Saturday morning at
Yes, at 10
10 a.m.
a.m.
Eastern,
Yes.
7 a.m. Pacific. which is tough for me because I'm not really a
I
morning
know.
person, but I am
I
getting
know.
up and being in there. So I'm
Yes,
like,
you
I
are.
can do it.
You can. I know.
Yeah, and we're usually in there too on Monday evenings at
Yeah.
6. And that's
9
the
p.m. Eastern. Yeah, 9 p.m.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, and that's the Becoming Stronger clubhouse room, clubhouse club.
Yes.
So
Talking
it's,
about relationships and everything. Yeah.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
the
yeah,
start off your week. Yeah.
yeah. And it's a huge, it's a broad spectrum of topics that we cover, but single parenting is certainly one of them. Co-parenting, there's lots in there. So there's something for almost everyone who's gone through a
Pretty much.
struggle, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think anybody who's human can probably relate to one of the, yeah.
yeah.
One of the many things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Great. All right. Well, you have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night. I hope we haven't completely
You
killed
too.
your phone. We'll have to get you charged up pretty quick.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. It's the end of the night here anyway, so it's good.
That's
But
right. That's
thank
right.
you. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me. I'm so grateful. You
Uh,
are so beautiful. Thank you.
thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
So grateful for you to be here.